And New York is Closed Tonight. Tell the story of that, because that song was incredibly it got successful, and the Bo Diddley connection and all that.
It's bizarre.
Holy, let's go. Let's hear that stuff.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll tell you how it came about, because it's an interesting story and it's true.
Sure.
This is much clearer to me than some of the earlier stories. But I was working at the Bay on Thursday nights, Friday nights, and all day Saturday in the very first teenage department at a department store. Prior to this, there was children's and adults. So in this year, which was, I guess, 1970 or 1969, they decided to open a teen department, which catered to people between the ages, let's say, I don't know, 15 and 22 or something. So I worked in that department, and it was called Vibrations. So I went home one night and I wrote a jingle for them. And I went up to the general manager of the Bay and I said, I've written a jingle for the department. And he said, what? And I said, I've written a jingle for the department. And he said, okay. So I pulled out my guitar and I said, whoa, that's really, really good. How long will it take you how much will it cost me to make that a jingle into a 60-second piece for the radio? And I said, $600. And I could have said $4,000. I could have said 80. I had no idea. $600. Okay. Mary, write Mr. Greenfield or Barry a check out for $600. So I get a check, $600, a huge amount of money. And I found out the best studio in town was Tom Northcott's on 12th and Arbutus, Studio 3. So I probably get the bus to Studio 3 with my guitar. There's Tom Northcott. I recognized him from being Tom Northcott. And I said, I have $600. I'd like to make a jingle. Okay. So in the studio, hanging around, was a guy called, you might know this guy, plays in Trooper, and in those days it was called Applejack. His name is Smith. Smithy.
Oh, Brian Smith, yeah.
Right, you know him?
Really good friend, yeah.
Well, tell Smitty, he's the guy that played on New Year's Close Tonight, never paid. And
Are
he's
you
the guy,
serious?
I'm 100% serious. And he's the guy.
Oh my God, I was just talking to him the other day.
Well, tell him I love him, and I really respect him.
Oh, he's a lovely guy.
And I'm not sure. I think I offered to pay him, and he said no. I think he thought I was just a kid. And so he was there, and Ken Lundgren, who was a bass player I knew, was there, and we knocked off the jingle in whatever. Vibrations is my home, I go there. Vibrations is my place, I go there. I love Vibrations. It was a minute long. I timed it. It had a 40-second bed in the middle where we played instruments, mostly my guitar, and Smith doing something. And then I went to Tom Northcott and I said, okay, he said, well, you got $450 left. And I said, oh, I didn't spend it all. He said, no. I said, okay, guys, would you help me? And Smith said, yeah. And Ken said, yeah. And so we went into the studio, back in the studio, and I had two songs ready, New Year's Close Tonight and a song called John Roll On. So we did New Year's Close Tonight in 2 takes. I played the acoustic guitar, Smith played the guitar, which has become an iconic sound to me, and Ken played the bass, and I played a hand drum that was broken. So that's why I had the heartbeat, boom, boom, boom. Whoever the engineer was, engineered it, and within 20 minutes, New Year's Close Tonight was finished. We spent the next 3 hours doing John Roll On, and that was going to be the A-side. And that was the end of it. And Ken Lundgren, who was the bass player, worked for the Province. He was the Tom Harrison before Tom Harrison.
And the Province was a local newspaper in Vancouver.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
So he was reviewing Bo Diddley. So he went to Bo Diddley to do an interview after Bo Diddley's show. I believe it was at the Commodore, but it might not have been. It could have been the Savoy. I don't really know. And he said, hey, can I play you this song about New York? Played it for Bo Diddley. Now, Bo Diddley is not folk music. I mean, I guess you could call that ethnic blues folky, but you wouldn't think, right? But he thought, oh, this is really great. Can I have a copy of that? So Ken gave him the cassette, because we had others. And the next thing you know, my phone is ringing, and I've got a phone call from this dude in New York, Fred Allert, A-L-A-H-L-E-R-T Jr. And he's got a New York accent, and he says, Barry Greenfield, this is Fred Allert in New York. I'm the owner of Blue Seas Music. We publish Bacharach and David. And I have a Third On Music, and I have a Thursday Music. And I think your song is the #1 song. And I said, what song? He said, New York is Closed Tonight. I said, great, get someone to sing it. And he said, I want you to sing it. And I said, no. And it went on for 6 months, man. He'd phone me every month and begged me to sing the song. And I said, no. One day he phoned me 6 months later from this first phone call. He phones me up and he says, I'm in San Francisco on Thursday. Will you come down and meet me? And I said, well, I don't have any money to fly to San Francisco. He said, I will get you the ticket. Just go to Air Canada, give them your name, show them your passport, and they'll have the ticket waiting for you. I'll have a limo waiting for you at the airport. Get in the limo and they'll bring you to a restaurant in Fisherman's Wharf, and you'll recognize me because I'll be waiting for you. Just ask for Fred. So I got on the plane the next day, went to San Francisco the next day, and I really liked him. And I signed the contract there. And he signed me to Laurie Records, Laurie, out of, I think it was out of somewhere in the East, Detroit or somewhere like that.
Yeah, we've got pictures of all this. The Laurie record label.
Yeah,
and
it came out and it went to #1 in Canada forever. And Daryl Burlingham told me it was the most played record in Canada in 1972. Yeah, and I
world famous, Canada's famous DJ, Daryl B. He broke a lot of people.
Yeah, he also the reason Taking Care of Business exists.
Exactly. He's the one that he was the one that came up with the line "Taking Care of Business." He didn't realize it, but he did.
And he's the one that told me New York's Close Now was the most played song on Canadian radio that year. So you should be very proud of that, Barry. That's an achievement only one person achieves every year. And it got played so much, Mick, because of Canada content. I mean, the reason Terry Jacks exists, he sucks, is because of Canadian content. The reason Burton Cummings gets so much airplay, and he doesn't suck, he's okay, is because of Canadian content. I mean, I got so sick of Gordon Lightfoot, so sick of Anne Murray, so sick of Randy, so sick of those guys. Overplayed. And it's happened to the Beatles over the years, and it's happened to Led Zeppelin over the years. Too much play, right? It takes away some of the originality, some of the spark. And so New York's Close Night fit in a 33% section, written by a Canadian, recorded in Canada, Canadian content. So, and it was a crappy record. It was done in 2 takes. It was really, really not a good sounding record, but it had a je ne sais quoi about it, an honesty about it. So it went to #1, and Fred Allett then takes the song on Laurie Records to RCA and negotiates a 3-year contract, 3 LP contract with RCA Records, and gets 20 grand. And the deal I had with Fred Allett was every penny I got, he got 50% of it. Plus he got all the publishing. So I got 10 grand. Now 10 grand to me was a lot of money, and it still is, but it was. And he then flew me down to LA, where I was interviewed by I interviewed 3 producers to produce my first album. And I introduced Paul Rothchild from The Doors, who was too spaced out for me. Another guy who I don't remember, really famous, don't remember who it was. And the third guy was a really overweight by maybe 100 pounds, 5'2", never made a record in his life. The staff producer at RCA, David Kirschenbaum. And I really liked Kirschenbaum. I liked his softness. I liked his heart. I liked the way he talked to me. I liked the way he loved his wife, who he's since divorced, but he loved his wife. I love people who love their wives. John Shields. I love that. And I picked him. And Fred said, how could you pick him over Paul Rothchild? And I said, I think Paul Rothchild's a fantastic record producer, but he doesn't really listen to me. He just talked to me. And I think I want to be part of the record. If I'm going to take this huge step that I've refused, I want to be co-producer. I know what I want. I don't want to be told how to do it. And Kirschenbaum, to his degree, let me have a big input. And so we made this LP built around New York's Close Tonight with the best players in America. It's called Double Scale Players. And it was probably some of the finest 3 weeks of my life, always in New York Close
So who are the players that were on that album? Did you have some good ones?
Yes.
Like name ones?
Well, there was the best. They were not only the best in name, they were the best players. The only equals I played with are the guys in Nashville in the last 6 or 8 years, and Mick DeLaVia, a guy who I know in Victoria. But there was Larry Carlton on guitar. And Larry Carlton had played on every single session from...
Oh, he's the best. He's amazing.
He was the guy that I loved the most. He was the best.
Nice guy.
Super. And he came in with a little sort of caravan, and his roadie opened the doors, and there was like, I don't know, 30 guitars in the caravan, and he picked one out. And the way Larry did it, which might really appeal to you, Mick, he sat on a chair across from me and he said, play me the song. So I played him the song in my primitive way, the way I play it for you. Like I remember with Quiet Canadians, how we started off our journey. And he just sort of copied my style. He sort of copied it. The way if I used my fingers, he used my fingers. If I strummed, he strummed. If I used the capo, the capo. And the other thing that strings about Blue Sky is I always had my guitar tuned down half a tone. So the whole album is down half a tone. Everybody had to do that. And Larry Carlton learned the song. And before we actually, and the other players, then I'll get to the arranger in a second. Larry Carlton, Dean Parks, second guitar. He was really good.
These are all like Steely Dan people.
Yeah, they all played on Steely Dan. Joe Osborne, who played that riff in Mr. Tambourine Man, was with the Wrecking Crew. Joe Osborne on bass, he played on Simon & Garfunkel's.
Yeah.
Joe Osborne on bass, who was like just a rock. The bass player to me is the most important player around for my music. The drum, I had two drummers because the one guy's the Conflicts, but listen to the two drummers, completely different characters. We picked the right one for the right song. I had Russ Kunkel from James Taylor, Carole King's band, playing on 3 or 4 of the songs, and on the other 7 songs or 6 songs coming over on the album, I guess it was 10, was Jim Gordon, who was from Derek and the Dominoes, who wrote Layla with Clapton, who eventually went to prison and was murdered in prison. He was a peculiar guy. He was 6'6" tall, and just like Doris Maxwell and just like Jerry Adolph, hit the drums 10% too hard. Right. Just listen to me. I'm in charge of this room.
Yeah.
Bang, bang, bang. And Russ Kunkel was the opposite. He was genteel, sensitive, subtle, and they both played a role. And on New York's Close Night, on the RCA version, which had an instrumental tag that I stole from Ram, Jim Gordon flies through that. He was the right guy.
Stole from Ram in what way? The Paul McCartney album, you mean?
Yeah, the way McCartney ends songs and he goes, I'm not going to do it because I'll embarrass myself. But when he could, he would do these screams. Like backseat of my car, he comes back with an instrumental thing.
I see. I tag out.
He does 2 chords, usually D and C, he goes up and down. Right. And he goes, and I just love that. Paul McCartney does the same thing over and over again. He does descending bass lines and ascending vocal lines. He does the same things in so many of his songs, like 1985, where he goes to a stop and then starts again. I think if you're going to steal from the best.
Yeah.
So I stole that from Paul McCartney. And the reason that album is so great is because of 2 people. David Kirschenbaum, who became one of the best producers in music history, got 75 Grammys. Don't know how many gold records. Did Cat Stevens, Bob Dylan, Supertramp, all of Tracy Chapman, all of Joe Jackson. I was the first record he ever did. I was the guy who gave him the break. I was the guy that hired him. And Kirschenbaum told me that on the phone 10 years ago. And the other reason was Jimmy Haskell. Jimmy Haskell was the greatest arranger ever. Bruce Springsteen's finest album to me is the one he did 2 ago, Western Stars. And it's an homage to Jimmy Webb and that's late 60s music. And that's Jimmy Haskell, where he arranged stuff. So I flew to LA before I did this LP, and I lived in Jimmy Haskell's house for 3 days with him and his wife, and we spent 3 days arranging these 10 songs on Fender Rhodes. So when the boys came to play, we sat in a circle. I didn't play. I sat in the middle with a microphone, and they were circled around me in Studio B in RCA, grand piano, Larry Netzel on grand piano, the guy from Bread who played Bridge Over Troubled Water.
Oh yeah, Netzel.
Oh man, playing the grand
unbelievable.
Piano. Jim Gordon on drums to my left. Larry Carlton looking at me, so I was always singing to Larry. Dean Parks when he was needed, and a guy called Joe Estes. I think that was his name. His last name was Estes anyway, on percussion. And we played it all live. The only overdubs we did were lead guitar and background vocals, which we used Mary Clayton, the one from Give Me Shelter.
Right.
And another woman.
She was pregnant when she sang that.
Yeah, well, she wasn't pregnant with singing mine. She was hot, and she was, oh, God. Oh, it was incredible to hear these, what I call, bedroom songs. I'd sit on my single bed, writing these songs, and then hear this band bring them colors and rainbows and hues and make them so much better than they actually were, although they couldn't be anything without the nucleus, but they colored them.
Mm-hmm.
All because of New York Goes Tonight.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Check out our other vignettes and full episodes from a wide variety of guests for more great content. Please like, share, and subscribe, and become a member at SocialNRGPresents.com to access premium content and earn valuable energy points just for watching.